Yeah.
I sort of talk the way I write. So really, what do we have, like an hour left? I only need like one question, and I'll just write it on out from there. No. Please, if you have any questions, it doesn't have to be just about any particular books of mine, about writing, about anything like that. It's very welcome. Did you mention this earlier, that if you would like someone to translate for you a question or something, Yilva will be happy to do it for you.
Yeah.
And translate the reply, or at least
parts of the reply.
Synopsize, yeah. Yes. But please feel free. Everybody's already looking for see who will do it first. All right, I'll ask myself a question. Are you enjoying yourself here tonight, Tad? Yes. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And what do you think of the crowd, Tad? They're lovely people. How were the questions? They were brilliant. No, seriously, anything. Anybody want to ask about books, upcoming books, old books? Yes, in the back.
Yeah, I would like to know if you would write urban fantasy again.
If I would write urban fantasy again. Like the Bobby Dollar books?
And Wars of the Flowers.
Oh, War of the Flowers too, yeah. Der Blumenkrieg, yeah, Der Blumenkrieg, I've forgotten. I would love to, and I may very well. One of the things that happens with me is that because the books I write are not short, they are long books. I very much like to change once I've spent 5 or 6 years writing a trilogy or something. It's very nice to write another kind of book, to use other muscles, I would say, So I very much would like to. Also, the books you mentioned, the Bobby Dollar books and War of the Flowers, Der Blumenkrieg, I remembered, were both books that were very fun for me to write because I was able to use my natural voice a little more. I did not have to sort of make things so that they would fit in a pre-industrial context, so because I'm like really picky about that, and I'm really nervous about bringing in words that to me would throw me out of the story, so I'm being very careful when I'm writing like the Ostenard books to not use words that would make people feel like that's too modern. So it's a real pleasure sometimes to write in a more, what is to me as a 21st century person, more naturalistic. And especially with the Bobby Dollar books, because since the main character is narrating the books, and he is very much, that is the closest I ever get to my own voice, my way of looking at the world, the way I talk about things, the shocking things that I do in my spare time. They're a lot of fun to write. It's a very natural way to write for me. I don't have to weave together 500 different storylines, and I don't have to worry about the language. I can almost just be me talking, except it's the character. So yes, and in fact, I already have an idea. My plan is, if I can go back to the Bobby Dollar books, they will be each one a single volume, what we would call in English a standalone, okay, not another trilogy or something like that, but each one more like a crime novel or something, so each book self-contained. So I already have an idea for another Bobby Dollar book, which if I do find a chance to write it, will be called Forever O'Clock, which you can translate. I don't know if that's...
That's really difficult.
Immer Uhr?
Immer,
Für immer Uhr? Genau, Uhrzeit, also ne? O'clock ist Uhrzeit.
O'clock, yeah. Because it's...
Difficult.
Yeah, I never
Hard to
know
translate,
how it translates in German. But so I do have an idea for one, and it's a question of time and whether publishers will give me money. Not that I am a greedy person. I just have a strong moral objection to my children starving. I know it's crazy, a crazy thing, but yes, if I get a chance, I will. Any other? Anything? Yes.
Mein Englisch ist leider
Ja,
nicht so
alles
gut.
kein Problem.
Ich wollte erstmal Danke sagen, dass Herzog Iskrimur im letzten Buch so eine große Rolle hatte. Und meine Frage ist, inwieweit Sie Einfluss haben auf die Covergestaltung Ihrer Bücher, weil die Bücher im Englischen und die amerikanischen Bücher sehr unterschiedlich aussehen und gerade die deutschen Bücher jetzt auch nochmal eine neue Covergestaltung erfahren.
Okay, so first she wants to thank you for Duke Iskrimur having such a big role in the last one. And her question is whether you have any influence in the cover design of your books, especially as the English and the American versions are different and the Germans as well. So what is your take on that?
All right, so first off, bitteschön. As far as the covers, I have actually quite a bit of influence with my American publishers, who are kind of my, what we would say, publishers of record. They are the first ones to get the manuscripts and to edit and things like that. Although I'm very, very fond of my German publishers, who have been brilliant for me, and I really like them. But the difference is I've been with my American publishers for now 30 years and more, same people, and they are almost like family to me, and they always ask me, about the covers, and we talk about the art direction and things like that. My German publishers, because it's a different market, I don't feel like I have, I buy American books, so I know what I see when I'm in a store and what attracts my attention. So I would still have an artistic reaction to the German covers or the French covers, but I don't know the market. So I trust the publishers to do, what they think is best for the books. So in that sense, I do have input, but only with the American books. Does that answer the question? Good, thank you. Anything else? Anybody? They're all looking around. In a moment, let me get in the first. Yes, Rosina.
How do you come up with your characters' names?
How do I come up with the characters' names? Well, I don't know. If we spend long enough tonight, you will all begin to realize that I am a little bit compulsive about things. There are things I take very seriously that normal people would say, this is a troubled man. He is a worrying case. And names are one of them. I think names are very important. I am not quite so far that I think names are witchcraft or magic, but in a sense they are. They are very important things. And so when I create names for my characters, first of all, it's very important to me that they feel like they are part of the world, and especially the culture of those characters, that you can look at those names and they feel right. Oftentimes then, because many of the names are based on real-world languages, the names also have meanings as well. And sometimes I don't remember anymore what the meaning was when I first made it up. But they are important to me, and when I'm making them, I try, especially for the main characters, I try to pick them very carefully. And they usually have some kind of symbolic or sound thing that I chose. I think names are important. I've never liked my name very much, so perhaps that's part of it. I always thought Tad. You don't have Tad here, but in America, it has a kind of meaning of like somebody from a rich family who sails on sailboats, and goes out for drinks with their friends, and is kind of what we would call a preppy. They all go to private school, and it's like, Tad, oh, Skipper, and names like that. But it's not in my case. It also means small. It's a slang, English slang, American slang for small, which is where you get the English word tadpole, meaning a baby frog. Yes, I know. So either way, I am screwed. It's no question about it. Either I'm a preppy or I am a baby frog. So, but because of this, perhaps, I'm always interested in names. And I ask people where their names come from when I meet them. And I'm always interested in them. So I take them very seriously. Was there a specific reason you were asking?
I like them.
Yeah.
And I like the way they always are, or lots of them, when people are from a culture that's similar to one that exists in our world, you recognize something about them, but then they are a little bit different. And that makes a very good atmosphere.
Thank you so much. I made a very deliberate decision way back long ago, when I started Den Drachenbeinton, that because the books were going to be so complicated and so many characters, I wanted to make it easier for readers. So I deliberately made the cultures quite separate, more so than they might be in a real world, and gave them real world counterparts. So the names of the Rimmersgard people are in part based on Icelandic. The names of the Hernistiri people are in part based on Celtic languages, Gaelic. The names of the Nabani people are Latinate. They're like names you get in Italy or even earlier in Rome. So the idea was that would make it easier for people to quickly know, oh, that character is probably from that place, because I'm already asking people to remember quite a lot. So it was an act of kindness for which you may thank me. And you, sir, had a question.
Yes, I was wondering if you have plans to go back to writing a fable again, like Tail Chaser's Song.
Oh, specifically Tail Chaser's Song, I'm not so sure, although I'm very well may, now that I have gone and done an Oostenard book, and enjoying it. I am very happy doing the Oostenard book, so I know it's okay, it will not kill me to revisit my old worlds. But two things to say about that. First of all, we now feel fairly certain that the Tail Chaser animated movie is going forward. So there will be more Tail Chaser, at least in film, in animation. I always like to write these kinds of things, and I would like to write another one. In fact, I have an idea for one, not a Tail Chaser book, but about a dog, called The Story of Small. And how would you translate that? Let's start on
Die
the
Geschichte des Kleinen.
Die Geschichte des Kleinen. Yeah, die Geschichte des Kleinen. So I'm already thinking about that kind of thing. One of my problems is that I have so many things I want to write. I have so many ideas that I want to write, but some of my ideas are very long. So, it's 5 years till I can start a new project. So I've been wanting to write The Story of Small, which would be an animal book also, for now maybe 2 years. I don't know when I will get to it, and something else may come along that goes in front. Ilva wants me to write a different book.
A trilogy.
You wanted a trilogy?
That one is much too big for one
I
book.
know, God. I know, but it's science fiction, and it will be so much research
it will be
and work.
awesome.
Anyway, you can see how it is.
Yeah.
This constant struggle for time against desire, right?
But no lack of ideas, so to speak.
Unfortunately, no. I am certain that I will die with many books not written that I would like to write. So, not soon, not tonight. I hope, knock wood. No, but they're always, for every book I write, there are maybe 2, 3, 4 ideas that I have to put aside. And some of them I come back to, but many of them just never get written. So when someone comes up to me, as people do, I don't know if, I think many writers have this experience, but I have certainly had it. Very common thing, you go to a party and someone finds out that you are a writer, ein Schreiber, yeah, and says, oh, I have an idea for a book. Here's what we'll do. I'll tell you my idea, and you write it, and we'll split the money. So, yeah, you'll spend 10 minutes telling me your idea at a party. I'll go away for 2 years, do the work, and then we'll split the money. Yes. Needless to say, this is not an appealing bargain for me. I do not say, hooray, thank you. And in particular for me, I tell them nicely, I say, I have more ideas than I can write. So thank you, but no. Which is me being polite. Because, the people who love books or people who love writing don't say that to you. It's usually people who don't really know much about either. And they think having the idea is really the important part, And their ideas are always terrible. Or they have stolen it from someone else. I have an idea for a story. It takes place in a galaxy long ago and very far away. So, other question? Anything? Yes, back there.
Is there any non-animated movie planned, so with real actors? So would you like to see one of your books?
Yes, well, obviously after seeing Game of Thrones and what they did with George's book. No, I'm not just talking, she's laughing because she's thinking, oh yeah, money, money, money. I am not a greedy man. I would be happy with only a few of George's millions and millions of dollars. Maybe 5 or 6 million. Plenty for me. But after seeing what they did with George's book, which was to be very respectful of the story, they clearly, the writers, Benioff and Williams? Weiss, yeah, Benioff and Weiss. I wonder where I came up with Williams. The writers of Game of Thrones were clearly really loved the books and did a very good job of, especially in the earliest years, of bringing that across to the screen and really bringing as much of it to the screen as possible. So yes, I think any writer who is at all willing to see film or television of their work would be happy with something like that. Or with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, which was not just his, of course. There were some other people that worked on the movies too. But when I said this just the other night, but when Lord of the Rings was first going to be made into a movie, the Lord of the Rings was very important to me. That was when I was maybe 11 years old. I read it the first time, and that was one of the things that made me want to be not just a writer, but a world builder, to make worlds. So when I heard they would make the Lord of the Rings into a film, there was a part of me that felt like, oh, I hope they don't spoil it, ruin it, But when I found out it was Peter Jackson, and I had seen some of his work, and I knew from interviews that he was very, very serious about the books. They meant something to him. I said to myself, this may not be my Lord of the Rings. It may not be what I see in my head. But as long as it's someone's version, not just a Hollywood version, but is someone's version who cares about it, that will be interesting to me. Because a film, a television show, is not the book. It doesn't make the book go away. It is another medium. It is another way to do it. So I was interested to see. And I enjoyed it very much. It was not exactly what I saw in my head, but it was very good. And it was very much somebody trying to do something well. Same thing with Game of Thrones. So if that happened, and they asked to do it, I will say yes. And then I will wait to see what they do with it and hope that it is enjoyable and that I like it and everybody likes it. And I don't think I will probably ever have the kind of success George has had. We were just in Syracuse in Sicily 2 years ago. And I was, here are tourists from like Japan and Eastern Europe, and the women are wearing Khaleesi t-shirts, and all that. And all I could do was just say, wow, wow. What an amazing thing this has become. It is a worldwide success. I don't hope for so much. But if somebody makes it who really likes my story and wants to do a good version, I'll be happy. Somebody else in here? Yes.
Are there any real idols to your characters?
Any real idols?
Like real existing persons that...
Real existing persons. It's actually something that, it's an interesting question. It is actually something that does not happen very often with me. I can think off the top of my head in Tail Chaser's song, there was one character who I based in part on my first wife's father. In English we say father-in-law, on my first wife's father. In Otherland, there were 3 characters, but 2 of them were because they won a contest. No, it's true. They won a contest, and I promised that I don't know why they entered this contest, but I said, one of my friends, we were doing this at a convention, and one of my other fantasy writer friends said, I will write if you contribute to this charity, we contribute to a charity, she said, I will write you into a sex scene. So I said, well, there goes the interesting thing I can do with the characters. So I said, fine, if you contribute to the charity for me, I will torture you to death. Because, it takes all kinds. There are, people in the world, who knows. Anyway, so 2 people both contributed enough to become characters in Otherland and were, in fact, tortured to death. And for those of you who know Otherland, they were 2 employees at Telemorphics, the company, who suffered. They were both, because I asked them both. I said, tell me, the real people who won the contest, I said, tell me what is the most horrible way to die you can think of. And they told me. I said, congratulations. And then there's one other character in Otherland who is a character called Blue Dog Anchorite, who is an old hacker who is based on a friend of my wife Deborah's and mine, who is a wonderful person, an English friend of ours. But other than that, I can't think of many. And it's not because it does not sometimes people and the way they are seem to me like, oh, that would be a good character. But the problem is for me, I don't know about other writers, the problem is for me, if I make a character that is just like someone in the real world, then it is hard sometimes to use them in a story if they are doing things differently than that real person would. And again, if you like the person, it is very hard to kill that character when you need to. Now, not everybody feels that way, Some people have no trouble killing characters. Some people have no trouble killing every character. But I won't mention any names. Any other questions? Yes?
How long did it take you to write the first sentences to return to Osten Art from developing the first ideas?
I would say, because when I thought of wanting to start a new Osten Art book, I was still writing the Bobby Dollar books. And I believe I was writing the last Bobby Dollar book, which in English is Sleeping Late on Judgment Day. So I think I spent nearly a year or most of a year while writing another book, but beginning to think about Osten Art. I had to reread the books, and they are very long. So it took me a while. but I also was thinking of, what I already knew about the world, but what I wanted to add onto the world, even before I thought about the characters. Then I started thinking, 30 years have passed, the characters we know, how have they changed? What has happened in their lives? Will there be children, grandchildren? What about new characters to help tell the new story? So I deliberately was not in a hurry, because one of the things that happened to me when I started writing the new Oostenrijk, Die Hexenholzkrone, was that a lot of people, when we announced it, a lot of people very kindly wrote things on the internet and wrote magazine articles saying, oh, I'm so excited, Tad Williams, he is going to write, new Oostenrijk. And then they wrote these really nice things about how much they had loved the earlier books. And this filled me with terror. Yes, fear, utter fear, yeah, Angst. Because I realized, unlike most books, when I write a new book, if people hate that new book, then they just hate that book. If I now went and wrote a sequel, went back to Oostenrijk, and wrote a bad book, or many bad books, I would also ruin these books I wrote 30 years ago for all the people who had loved them. So because of that, I spent maybe the first 2 or 3 months unter dem Bett, just quivering in terror when people were saying all these nice things and how excited they were that I would go back to this world. And I was like, oh my God, please don't let me screw up. So now it's too late. I can't do anything about it. I don't worry so much. But it was very tough at first, I didn't think anybody cared that much. I mean, I knew some people did. I knew... No, it's true. I mean, I knew some people did because they were the ones who were always talking to me on the internet, and they became friends. So I thought, okay, I know at least 20 or 30, people are interested to know. But then all these nice things started being written, and that's when the angst came. So it did take a while for me to prepare to write the books. And then I didn't hurry through the first book either, again, because I wanted to make sure that I was getting it right. And I sent it to some friends who I trust, and my publishers, and my wife, who also is, besides now a writer, was a publisher, and got feedback and felt like, okay, maybe not so bad. I will dare to publish this. So. Somebody in here had a question, yes.
Ich sag's auch in Deutsch. Zuallererst mal vielen Dank für die vielen Stunden mit den Charakteren und den fantastischen Büchern. Ich bin jedes Mal gespannt, wenn was Neues rauskommt.
She's talking about George R.R. Martin.
I don't think so.
Ich habe eine Frage. Wie schreibt er? Computer? Diktiert er? Von Hand? Mit der alten Schreibmaschine? Großes Whiteboard mit den ganzen Charakteren, um die Übersicht zu behalten?
I actually understand the question.
Yeah.
So. Two things. One thing about me, very normal. I do write on a computer. Every book since my very first, I have written on computer. It is one of the things maybe that has contributed to such long books because, I don't have to start over each revision, each draft, as we say, to write it all again, which when you have written anywhere from 1,100 to 1,600 page manuscript, it is very tiring to start over again each time to rewrite. So I work with a computer, I work with a word processing program. Someone asked me last night if I use a special author program or something, and such things did not exist when I started, so they may be very good, but I never used them. So you want to translate that first part?
I don't need a translation.
You don't need to translate, okay.
I read your books in English, but my English itself is not so good.
Your English is much better than my German. I mean, that's ridiculous. But anyway, so yes, I use a computer. Although I will, if I'm just making some notes or something, just, you know, a pad of paper. But everything else happens in here. Because for me, the way I like to write, I like to think before I write every day. So I maybe will think for 2 hours or so, or 3 hours. Usually I am horizontal, lying down on bed. And I think about what I'm going to write and play almost like a game of chess, where I think of all the possibilities. And if it's in my head, it is easier to change things, to try different things, to throw it all out and start another try to find out what will work best. Because these are fairly complicated books, and I have to think all the way to the end sometimes. Just for one scene, I have to think, yes, but will that change what is going to happen in 2 books? So there is much weaving together of possibilities, and before the weaving is trying them out, trying in my head.
Can you give it that to your president?
Can I what?
Can you tell that to your president? That is a good idea. First thing.
Yeah. He is my president in a technical sense. I did not vote for that man. Nobody that I know who is not criminally insane voted for that man. But I don't want to talk about politics too much in case I will.
It was just a joke.
No. I'm saying, I'm not blaming you. I'm saying I don't want to talk about politics too much, or I will begin foaming like a mad dog. Yes? So, but anyway, so for me, yeah, almost everything stays in the head until I actually write it down on the page. So that when I sit down to write, I write straight through for maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours and write my 10 pages or whatever. That works best for me. Some writers, I know Stephen King, my wife Deborah, when her writing, will oftentimes sit there and think and write a little, and sit there and think and write a little. For me, it works better to think first, and then once I have what I want, then I just write. So, other. You just want to watch me do this, don't you? How long will this stupid man keep doing this? Any other questions? No? We have exhausted your questioning ability? Yes, sir.
Yeah, when you said you make it all up in your head, but I think on, for example, other lands with so many strings to attach to each other, can you hold that all in your head, or do you have some map somewhere where you...
brain.
Seems like that, yes.
No, actually, Otherland was interesting because unlike the fantasy novels, where I actually can use a map to say, you know, how far here, how long will it take them to travel on foot or by horse, Otherland, there was never a map. So Otherland only ever existed here. And yes, it is mostly memory. I am fortunate enough to have a good memory. And I use it all the time, which I think helps. You know, I am very careful. You know, at this late stage of my life, I don't want to even write things down if I can avoid it, because I need to keep this working. So yeah, no, Otherland was the same way, all in the head. And so if I die and somebody comes out with my book and says, here, we finished Tad's book, that's not my book. They made that up themselves. There are no notes. There are no things that would tell them how to finish my book. So if I am gone, the books are gone. Do not trust any books that come out after I die. I am not Jimi Hendrix. I am not Elvis. I am not still Tupac. You know, I am not alive making still.
No need to destroy your hard drive?
No, they won't. I don't need to. No, I don't need to, because there's just, you know, there's nothing on it that anybody could use to write. Anything last before we start signing? Yes.
Okay. After Memories on Thorn, 30 years have passed, and the internet came into being. So all of your fans have now a great platform to play around with your characters in public, and you see them playing out. What do you think? What is your take on fan works, and what would you like to see from your fans to do?
I am just thrilled to have fans to begin with. You know, I mean, that's just that's not the kind of thing that I would ever take for granted. You know, I get up every day and say, wow, I'm a writer, you know? People read my books. You know, that is one of the nicest things about doing what I do, is that sometimes when I am talking to readers, they are saying or seem to be saying the same thing about my books that I felt about the books that were most important to me. So that is so exciting, because the books that I loved made me who I am, you know? So when somebody says to me, oh, your books were really important to me when I was a teenager and having problems, or, you know, anything like that, it is just so exciting to me. I feel as though I have paid back the writers I loved by passing it along or paying it forward. As far as fan fiction or anything like that, I love it. You know, there may be things that people shouldn't do because my publishers would say, you know, no, you can't sell that and make money from it because we own the publishing rights or something. But for me, anything that anyone is doing like that is them another nice thing that they are saying about my work. And I have had people write fan fiction among friends of mine who have written fan fiction, and it was wonderful. You know, and it's so exciting to have someone say, you know, I like your world so much, I want to go play in it. You know, that's very nice.
So we are allowed to take the characters as long as we give them back after play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the only thing. The only thing is that, you know, people can't go out and sell them because my publishers would be very sad, and they have special people who come to your house. Oh, you did not know about the fan fiction police? You don't want to get the fan fiction police upset at you. Terrible. They will never even find you. Nothing left.
Oh my God.
Yeah, very bad, very bad. No, but for me personally, absolutely, yes. I'm very happy for it, and thank you, I say to people who do that.
And is there something special you want to see aside from fan fiction or fan art, which is very common?
No. If you're going to write fan fiction, you do the work, not me. Fan fiction for me is a holiday, see? I don't have to work. So.
I was thinking of things like Austin Art Cookbook or 1,000 Ways to Deal with Onions.
I would never have thought of that. So see, that's, you have the ideas, it will be fine, you tell me about it. If it's good enough, I steal it. Okay, anybody have one last question before we stop, and then we're going to sign books. Ilva's going to sign for me. I'm going to go down the street and have pizza. No, anything else? Okay, then first, before, I very much want to thank Ilva and her family and the bookstore for putting this lovely evening together. And I want to thank all of you for coming. It is such an honor and such a pleasure to see people and to get to share my work. So thank you very much. Beautiful.
Deborah, thank you for inspiring your husband. I put it here.
And this one is of course for Ilva.
Thank you.
For having you here.
For inspiring her husband.
Yes. No.
Congratulations for being inspired, Henny.
Thank you. And this one, I think the Kasseler know what it is.
Oh, he does as well.
He
does as well.
Ali?
Do I?
And he likes it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the special Kasseler Aaleborst. That is a kind of sausage.
Ah.
And I'm not Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can take it to US. The last time I was there, then
No,
always
no,
the ducks
no, you
is
can't.
coming.
You have to eat it while still in Europe.
Okay.
Do I?
Yeah.
Do I?
Yeah.
There's no way I could tape it to
No,
my leg or
no,
something?
no. I tried that, and they were thrown in the waste.
You
and
think they would
husband.
notice if I just walked through customs?
Ask
No,
Freier.
all wound from the war. Yes. Well, then we'll just have to eat it.
Ja, vielen Dank. Der Abend ist noch nicht zu Ende. Wir geben Ihnen jetzt die Möglichkeit zu signieren. Wir haben auch einen Fotografen, der zumindest Ihre Handys nehmen würde und würde dann, während Ted signiert, auch Sie fotografieren, damit Sie mit auf dem Foto sind, damit wir nicht so mit den Selfies so großartige Probleme haben. Der Büchertisch befindet sich da hinten, englische und deutsche Bücher. Ja, wir räumen so ein bisschen um und auf, dass Sie ein bisschen mehr Platz haben, damit wir halt eben nicht diese Enge haben, die wir jetzt haben. Das nur so als Info für Sie. Ja, vielen Dank, dass Sie so durchgehalten haben. Das mit der Luft war nicht so gut, habe ich zumindest hier hinten gemerkt, aber ich glaube, das hat gepasst. Ja, dann räume ich wieder das weg. Vielen Dank.
Und wie gesagt, die Videos mit deutschen Untertiteln werden in einiger Zeit auf tedwilliams.com zu finden sein. Genau. Take pictures. You can hand the camera to
Oh, one last thing. One last thing too. Anybody who would be interested to, wants to stay up with us, we have a mailing list. We don't just send out crap. We try to send out original things. I write things for it and all that. So anybody who would like to be on the mailing list is free. It's fun. It's healthy. It's organic. You know. Go to tadwilliams.com.
No, Twitter page.
Oh, on
Tad
my
Williams.
Twitter page. See, I know nothing. That's why she has to.
It's in the biography.
In the biography
on the
Twitter
left
page.
hand of the page.
What she said.
Yeah. And it says, sign up pretty please.
Yes, okay.
Click.
And that's just, every now and then we send something out. We don't give your address away. We don't send you lots of things to bother you. We send you little writings and things.
Not
And
enough, if anything.
not enough, but we will try to do more. And for every 100th member of the mailing list who signs up, I will come to your house and do a dance.